I'm super excited to announce a new sponsor for the podcast. The new sponsor is Bowhead, and Bowhead is a lot of apparel, but also prints and stickers, even skateboards. Born off the coast of California, Bowhead brings you art-forward apparel and, like I said, prints and stickers. I love the stickers. It's all inspired by Mother Nature, inspired by surf and skate and tattoo culture. The designs are so cool. They just make me want to move to Santa Cruz immediately. And I love the tagline that Bowhead has, that not everything has to make sense, because I agree. Not everything does make sense. So I think in a world where everyone's wearing the same mass-produced graphics from chain stores, I think it's really cool to get something original, designed by a real human, designed by a small business, a small artist shop. It's one of my favorite ways to support art in our culture, in our world, is to get something from somebody who actually made it and put all that work in, got their web store together, makes the designs, puts it out there. I know from running my old business, Haute Couture, it takes a ton of work, and any way that I can support artists like that, I will continue to do that. So Bowhead, if you want to check it out, you go to bowhead.art and use code THOUGHT15 for 15% off your order. Thought is in all capitals. So I hope you enjoy it, and please help me welcome our new sponsor. Hi friends, my name is Greta. This is my podcast thought experiment called Life. This is a podcast for multi-passionate creative people who are interested in all the things. I definitely cover a number of topics. I wanted to make this podcast for people who are looking for inspiration and insight, whether it's in their journey of having, different passions in the world, different interests that weave together. You're the common denominator, and kind of how do you put those things together? Maybe you've had health challenges. I've had Lyme disease since I was 20. I'm turning 43 in a couple days, and whenever this comes out. And, I've had to really work on mindset and health practices and all those things. So I ended up getting my master's in nutrition and herbalism because that was what was really helping me get back on my feet with Lyme disease. And so I like to pass those things along and teach those things. I've also trained in martial arts. Since I was 15, I taught Krav Maga full-time when I was 20, around there. Right before I got really sick with Lyme. And yeah, I kept my training going. I ended up getting my black belt in it later. I took 10 years off, came back in my 30s, did that. And then I started jiu-jitsu, and I love it so much. It's just a lot of fun. But I'm very passionate about self-defense, self-protection, and what that looks like for people in general, but very specifically the women. I like to speak to that a lot because I love seeing the ladies training. It makes me very happy. So I talk about a bunch of these things. I'm also, my day job, I'm a professional musician. I do music for film and television. I have my own music out as well under the name Ultraviolet. I've been a musician my whole life pretty much, and there's a lot that goes into, with all of those things, mindset. It's mindset is such a huge part of it. And so today I'm turning 43 in a couple days, and I kept thinking I wanted to do something that was reflecting on, what would I tell my younger self and all of that. So I'm just going to kind of go off of that. I had a post that I did earlier this year. There's a picture that I shared from when I played a talent show at my old high school, and I was 17, and just kind of talking to her. There was more specifically about music industry things and kind of the grit and persistence you need to have. But so I have some notes from that I was thinking, but really, the biggest thing that's been on my heart, I'm just gonna, like I said, I'm just gonna kind of riff on this at the moment because it's been one of those things that for me, I'm the kind of person who goes well, I made the decisions that I did, and I'm here, and I'm grateful for where I'm at. So I wouldn't tell her anything differently in those senses. She learned all the lessons that she needed to know. And also, I think we become the wise women in our community, the wisdom. We hold the wisdom of being here for 4 decades, or 5 decades or 6 or whatever, to be able to share some things that maybe you wish you had known. And that's kind of how I'm thinking about this a little bit more. So I wish that I could say, this is exactly what I would tell my younger self.
But I don't even know that it's about telling my younger self because it's in the past. Right? Like I'm more look at what if I were to tell my younger self something, do I still need to tell myself that now? That's kind of how I look at it. And also, I think when we share these things, whatever our reflections are, when we choose to share something like this, it's really about sharing it with our community around us. I think of the girls that I teach jujitsu to, who I just adore. If you're listening to this, you know how much I love you. And I like to pass things along because I am older than most of them, and not that that means everything, but it just means you've seen more cycles, right? Like I've seen the same cycles happen a bunch of times where I can offer at least a bit of insight to be like, well, sometimes these things just pass, you know, and that would be probably where I would start with that. In terms of what I would tell my younger self and what I tell myself now when things come up, specifically when it comes to, at least for me in my case, having Lyme disease, and then, you know, but also having that with anxiety, depression, those kinds of things that come and they visit like weather a lot. It's like there's a storm that's rolled in, and a big piece of what has helped me besides therapy and nutrition and things like SAMe, ask your doctors about it. It's an amino acid that precursor for dopamine, helps me a lot with any like depressive feelings, instead of taking medication, which isn't bad. It's just like kind of, again, with your practitioner, total side quest. Sorry, ADHD right here. But I always want to mention that. So besides all those things that help me in terms of that, when I have my storms that visit, one of the biggest things that I've learned over the years is that really I do think about it like weather. Even in my songwriting, I gravitate towards writing about the elements in that, and weather in that sense. It's like, you know, there's the quote that it's you know, we're the sky and like the clouds are our thoughts, and that's just like rolling through. And I don't think that's a quote at all, but it's something like that. I'll try to find it. Too many tabs open in my brain to remember that one. But for me, having that perspective that when it comes through, it's like turbulence. It's like storms. You just gotta, for me, I find ways to ground myself during that time. Usually it's spending time in nature, it's music, it's being with the community when I can, when I, you know, like sometimes I just don't want to be around anybody. But, you know, I go train jujitsu with my friends and we always have fun. It's great because it's not like I have to talk about anything. We're just playing basically. And there's good music on. Being in the woods, you know, really having some tools to help you get through the storm passing. And again, therapy goes with this, good nutrition goes with this, sleeping, hydration, all of these things. And honestly, all of those things, like it, they are a lot of things, but that's just good for you. It's just like, you know, we're plants. We're basically plants. We got to sunlight and water and a good environment. Goes a long way. That's something that really was challenging when I was younger to have that perspective. And I think that's a pretty shared experience where it's like when something's happening, it feels like the world is ending. It feels like it's the last chance, last opportunity, last whatever. And especially when I was in my 20s, and especially when I was a teenager, you know, there was no perspective in the sense that there's no additional life cycles to go like, okay, I've been through this before however many times, and this is what I did that helped either make it worse or make it better, or just kind of like didn't do anything until it passed, you know. One of the reasons I love looking to nature and animals for messages and symbolism is because one of the most useful ones has helped me with this. So there's I'm not a mental health professional. I will have my sister on. She is, she can talk about this more clinically specifically, but I'll share my personal experience. But I know I think it was my therapist told me about something called telescoping. And for me, that translated more, it's like, you know, pulling back and looking at things from farther away and not being so like right up close. So for me, I love looking at the birds. I'm a total bird nerd. I love the hawks and the birds of prey and the vultures. I love. They're just all. I love them. I love. You know, watching them fly and like seeing them around. And for me, it helps me when I see them, especially when I'm going through one of these times, to like pull back and look at the wind too is getting a little crazy in Colorado. I don't know if you can hear that, but look at the situation, the big picture, like just really make it big and expansive and not have that like mouse vision is usually what I think of, where I'm just like on the floor up close with whatever's happening. There's no perspective. It's just like right there. And so I'll remind myself when things feel too heavy, feel like there's no, it's like there's no options, there's no whatever, there's none of this kind of and that would usually shut me down because I'd go like, what, you know, there's no hope or whatever. There's nothing, this is it. And I'll remember to pull back and look from a bigger vision. And another piece of that too was what really changed things for me also with that is specifically Atosha Silver's work. I will talk about it a lot. I love it that much. It really changed my life. And there are plenty of books that talk about offering and surrender. And I liked that it was non-denominational. I liked that she really just helped give some framework for being able to go like, you know what? I don't know. Like, I don't know the solution. I don't know what to do. I don't know. And then to be able to, whether you think of it as making an offering or saying a prayer or doing something, writing a note down and burning, like writing, I don't know what the fuck to do right now, and help me please, whoever it is that you feel connected with, and whatever name you choose with that, right? But offering that up or, really little actions that you can do, like making a wish. I think there's a reason why we all love that growing up. I think we all love that growing up. On the dandelions that have turned into little poof balls or things like that. Just making a moment where you're like, I don't know. I know this will pass, and I'm gonna just offer this up. That is something that, yes, I would, my younger self for sure would have avoided a lot of tears that way had I learned some of those skills earlier. But, I think like I'm grateful to have learned it the way that I did because I like to pass it along now. Having the trust that the storm will pass and the cycle will pass. And just like the seasons, it does change. And this is, again, everything that I'm saying is my personal experience. It's not going to be the same for everybody else. And just take it wherever that lands for you. But there is so much to that, I think, for a lot of people, especially in the kind of world that we live in right now, where everything is being presented to us as the most urgent thing that's ever happened. And some of those things are. And some of those things, we can take action on, and some of those things we can't. And so it's like there's a lot that's happening. We're being bombarded with so much stimuli at all times that having these tools really help to have that kind of mindset, especially if you're like sensitive. I know I am. Before I was saying, being sensitive, you sense a lot. You legit sense other people's emotions, the change in the atmosphere, you change the changes in your body. You sense it all, and it's it's definitely an experience. But being able to have some skills to help you navigate through that, and also being validated about that is something else that I would say to my younger self and to anybody who feels that way. Like, because I've been called sensitive my whole life, and especially like I could always tell something was like changing in my body in general before I even got sick. And what people would say, you're hypochondriac and all these things, and I'm like, I just feel it though. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I can feel it. I can feel a change. And really, it wasn't until I started, being able to do my master's and then actually have my own clients, and then have more self-awareness about my own experience, go like, oh, there are, and then meet other people and just go, there are people who are really tuned in and really just actually sense a lot more. And it doesn't mean it's not real. Your senses are heightened. That's it, and it's a beautiful thing when you're validated about it and when you know how to wield it and use it and cultivate it. And so I'm just going to keep going with my little riff here. So I'm going to go to the next thing that's coming to my mind with that. With that sensitive energy, something that, honestly, I wish that I had learned however you feel about astrology. I find it very interesting.
Just realized that my microphone was not recording, so I apologize. The sound difference probably that just happened. I did my best to make them the same, but just got to go with it. I very much have had so many things happen where I'm like, normally I would just be like, oh no, why am I even doing this? It's not perfect. It's not perfect. But this is coming from my heart and I do want to share. So I'm going to keep going. Even if the sound quality sometimes and the camera's cut out sometimes, if you're listening to this, hopefully it's not too disruptive. So I was talking about things that I would tell my younger self maybe, or things that my younger self was telling me now. Things that I would pass along. And I was starting to talk about astrology. It's kind of, people either are like, yes, I love astrology, or they roll their eyes. And it's fine. I'm sort of in the middle. I love astrology and I roll my eyes sometimes. The thing that I find interesting about it, though, that I do wish that I would have known when I was younger is just my chart in terms of my placements. So the placements for me, having like Leo Cancer is very sensitive and also has a need to like express, but also feel very like safe and nurtured. And those were things that felt so weird about me still, but now I feel more comfortable in my skin because I'm just like, this is who I am, and I've had more practice. But when I was younger, that felt really just not. I felt abnormal about it. I felt like I didn't belong and something was wrong with me. And I think we all, I shouldn't say all, I feel like I've met some people who don't feel this way, but it's a shared experience. There's many of us who go through these things where I do love astrology for that sense. It doesn't need to like get so deep in the weeds, but I find it interesting to know your chart, to maybe understand just how you show up on this earth with the energy that you show up with. And then how to look at it so that you either enhance the things you like and want to keep growing towards, and how you handle the things that are working against you. So the sensitivity in terms of like me, there's the memes that are like the Alice in Wonderland and Cheshire Cat's like, everyone's mad here, and she goes, at me? And I've never related to something so much in my life. Like that, I'm like, yeah, like that's how I felt and still feel sometimes, but I know better sometimes. Having that awareness as a kiddo could be really great. So like, it's just something to think about if maybe if you have younger kids and they are wanting to kind of get a better idea of their energetic information in that sense. And there are really great descriptions that are in depth, that are very deep. I love Channing Nicholas, and I love Stars Like You, I think is the other one. It's an Australian site, but they do really, really great breakdowns of the different signs and the different placements. And that can be just a really interesting way to get to know yourself and get to know things that you wouldn't necessarily know that are part of your astrology, but aren't, determined. Let's put it that way. It's not like you're this sign so that you're this forever. Like you can change how you relate to those things, but it's interesting to know that might be like a default setting. So I was not planning on mentioning astrology, but I do love it for that reason. It's interesting. It doesn't need to be, like I said, it's not like telling you your fortune. So I think that when I was talking about the energy and the sensitivity, there's a phrase that really helped me a lot that I learned in my 20s from my friend Mary, who I love, and I hope that she listens to this one day. The thing that I felt that I really worked through so much codependent behavior, and it took a long time and still is something that I work through, although it's manageable now. As my therapist would say, you don't have to take care of everybody. You can care for them without taking care of them. And that was like a lot for me to digest in that sense. And Mary she was like, there's this phrase, not my circus, not my monkeys. And she would say it every time I would tell her like what was going on in my life and being overwhelmed with other people's behavior and me trying to manage it in relation to my life, trying to like make sure everybody's happy and healthy and not paying attention to what I needed, how I felt and all of that. It really didn't occur to me to think about it as other people's problems. I felt that I needed to make sure that I managed the situation And if you have done any codependent work or know anything about it or have it, you understand that a lot. It's kind of, you're very tuned into, because you're sensitive, you're sensing other people's emotions and changes and things. And then you sense that and you manage what's going on as best you can, even though really it's not up to you. And for me, it took a long time to learn that. It doesn't really matter what I am doing in that sense. It's not my circus, not my monkeys. I have my own circus, my own monkeys, and that's really the only thing I have control over. So that is something that I definitely would pass along to a younger version of myself, but really just to anybody who's in that scenario. And I'm going to talk about that topic more in another upcoming podcast because I think it's one of the biggest things that changed my life. So that is one phrase for sure. There is something that I always come to that I really feel like now more than ever. And thank you for being here in this space with me. I am sharing things that are incredibly personal, and the internet is a wild west place when it comes to who may come across your information and all of that. So I hope that if you found this, that this is helpful and speaks to you in some way, and you feel not alone in that journey. That is why I'm sharing it. So I think one of the biggest things that I currently still am working on and get better at, but it seems to be the loudest. It's like the thing that I feel like is the overarching point of so many of the things that I know that I've wrestled with or grown through and all of that. I love Louise Hay. I've talked about her in previous episodes, and she's passed now, but she was a thought leader, I guess you could call her. She's the lady who basically created Hay House, all of the publishing from that. And she was just, I mean, wouldn't be surprised if they made her a saint someday. She just had the most positive, uplifted attitude. It was just, she was just had bright energy in a way, and went through a lot of her own things. I think she had cancer actually, and learned how to change her mindset to think about things differently. And it's been inspiring to me ever since, obviously, since I talk about it all the time. Hold on, I have an old kitty. So I remember when I first started listening to her, really in the beginning of my journey of mindset growth, she would always come back to, she's got a ton of work, but it was always coming back to the only affirmation or thought change you really need is I love and approve of myself. And it never really resonated with me that much. It felt like, I don't know, I think there's an SNL skit where they're actually joking about it, she's talking, because she would do mirror work. You would talk in the mirror and say this to yourself. And that's kind of how I felt about it. I felt real corny about it. However, I feel like that, I'm trying to find the best way to articulate it. That seems to really just be at the crux of everything. Whatever it is that we're struggling with, it comes down to us loving and approving of ourselves. And if you feel some resistance there, that's where your work lies. That's where my work lies, I'll say. Where it's the another way of saying this, that Tara Brach, who's I have a lot of favorites. I have a lot of people, a lot of teachers that I've collected, and she's another one. I was just listening to her. Tara Brach has an incredible podcast. She does meditations and talks and Buddhist talks. And she will often talk about, how would you feel if you didn't think anything was wrong with you? And that really, really struck home for me. It strikes home for me every time I hear it. Because I'll say for me, there's just always been an element of correction. Not good enough. I don't know if it was being told that I was a sinner when I was born. And that's just the way we're all born. We're born sinners. That really, really fucked me up. And then, that really didn't help. And then just kind of the way that we go through life, we're always, especially as women, being corrected. You're not this enough. You're not that enough. Da, 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 da. And it keeps me, I'll just use myself as that example. It keeps me in a place where I'm not allowing myself to receive as much, to relax, to rest, because I feel that I am still needing to make up for what's lost. I haven't quite hit the quota of X, Y, or Z. And again, this is really vulnerable to share this, so thank you for being here with me through this. But I'm sharing it because I think that, I know for me, that's been the loudest thing as I come to my 43rd birthday. I feel like, okay, I've had a long enough time here on earth to let that go, in terms of the correction side of things, to like continue, like, making, monitoring and controlling, and I do it way less than I used to. I would not be able to talk about this if I hadn't. I'd be like, shame, don't tell anybody. But I do talk about it because that's how we heal. We share our stories if you want to, if you feel like called to. I feel very called to. And I think that, it's how would you feel? What would you do? Who would you be? Who would you be if you didn't feel anything was wrong with you? Love and approve of myself. The phrase still feels a little corny to me, but the love, the love is easier than the approval side of things, I think, for me. I can express care and love for myself easier than I can go like, oh, good job about X, Y, and Z at this point. And just not, monitoring and correcting myself. That is something that for sure was like in full force when I was younger, and has gotten less over the years. And I love every time a woman tells me that it just gets easier as you get older. And that I think is really exciting. And I think this is part of it. It's partly like you get old enough where you just go, I've seen this enough times. I know that the storm will pass, as I was talking about before. I know that the cycle will renew. I know that things change unexpectedly, like sometimes, and for better or worse, obviously. And you have reverence for that. I have reverence for that. I have reverence for the fact that life is both predictable and unpredictable in that sense. And to hopefully be mindful in as much as you can, taking the deep breaths, really soaking in a moment. My sister always says, guys, this is a moment in time. And she's right. Like whenever, I love when she says it because it's a really good reminder, this is a moment in time right here that you may reflect and remember about later with such fondness. But in the moment, you might not realize how much fondness you have for that moment yet. So I think it's fun when she says that. And it's something that I hear in my head when we're not together. But there are some really beautiful things that happen the longer you're here on Earth in that sense. And I do love that those things do get easier. And of course, we still are growing through those things. I think that having healthy self-reflection is so important for our growth. And then also having the side of things where it's like, I can just be. I can just be. I don't have to fix anything else in order just to be who I am and to live this life and to enjoy it. We're even in our healing models of what's popular now, which I love. I think so many of us have really stepped into our lives so much more because of things like Hay House and Instagram therapy and all of those things. I'm sure there's plenty of things that are, people don't like about it, but people don't like stuff about everything. So I think the good things are that it really is helping us have that self-awareness, and this is not what I don't like about it, and sometimes you just be, there's no grade that we're getting. There's no evaluation in that sense, except for yourself. So really coming back to having that love and approval for ourselves is something that I both would tell my younger self, and is something that I'm currently really working on being mindful of without having the Catholic guilt about it. I don't know how else to say it. It's this like, make sure you are good, good enough kind of thing. So those are some things that I definitely would pass along. And I'll say, and when it comes to the passions of our heart, I definitely have a lot of thoughts on all of this. But when it comes to the passions of our heart and working towards something, I always knew that it would take hard work to get wherever I wanted to get. And, there's some people who are like, don't think about it as being hard. But I think about it more as for me and for a lot of people, there are things that we may want to do that I think, because I've trained in martial arts for most of my life, I look at when things require you to dig deep, it's it's actually, to me, a really beautiful thing. You get an appreciation for how deep you can dig in that sense, and the growth you get from it, and confidence in that sense that I feel like translates so much to when you're pursuing something that you love. That maybe, for me, getting into, like, I was a musician forever, but essentially the things that I'm doing now, I'm doing from Colorado that are based in California. And like, the chances of me doing certain things like that require me to have more patience, have a strong work ethic, and these are the challenges, I say, like have an ability to keep going even when it feels like things maybe aren't happening sometimes. And so all that to say, if there's something that you care about doing, the thing that's in your heart, and the thing that maybe people think is like, pie in the sky thinking and magical thinking or whatever, that it may require more hard work than you imagine. It may and probably will require you to be a cheerleader for yourself when no one else is cheering, or when they might not be like not cheering like because they don't want to cheer you on, but maybe it's just you by yourself doing something for a little while, and you have to cheer yourself on until they see what's going on. They're like, oh, that's awesome. You gotta, find ways to really dig deep and persevere more than, like, I already had the expectation of doing that, and sometimes I feel like it's even deeper than that in a way that I can do because of martial arts training, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying everybody has to train martial arts. Do I feel like most people would benefit from it? Probably. But everyone, something that requires you to have dedication and learn and grow through something that's not just going to come easily. Because the things that grow from you when you are challenged, whether it's physical or mental or both, there's no real word I have for it except I go back to alchemy and magic a lot because it's transformative. It's very transformative, and it is incredibly enriching. Let's put it that way. So I think there's a saying, it's like overnight success usually happens in 10 years. And I'm not saying that everybody's thing's going to happen in 10 years, but having the love and dedication, I'll encapsulate it like this. When you have the love and dedication to devote yourself to the thing that is the passion of your heart, it may require all of that. And it's not that anything has gone wrong if you have to keep trying harder and dig deeper. It's just that it's part of the path. It's like if you hike a mountain, there might be areas where it is way harder than the other parts. If you're training again martial arts, something like that, right? There are certain tests, parts, roles, fights, whatever, that require you to have to approach things differently. And that will also happen with the thing that you care about and that you love. And you may approach it and think that you got there, and then it's like you're closer, but there's still more to learn. And so falling in love with the process as opposed to the achievement has been something that has taken me years to learn, but has made my life much better, especially because I am working on things and doing things that are lofty in that sense, right? That I believe in, that I know are possible, but I have to really be committed to that vision and to that dream. So if there are things that you care about that you're doing that seem unrealistic, and your family's like, what are you doing? And my family's very supportive, but still, I'm sure sometimes they're like, what are you doing? But there's a devotion and dedication to it that is very sacred and is very necessary and is appropriate for the calling, let's say. So if you're going through that, it's not like anything has gone wrong. You've taken a path that requires this from you. And that's something that I would pass along to anybody who's embarking on something that they love. There will be moments where things click and flow quickly, and there will be moments where things stall and seem like nothing's happening, and both are part of the journey and both are normal. So what are the other things? I think something that I I learned and really love to pass along is done is better than perfect. I mean, this podcast is basically an example of that. I wanted to do it. It is not perfect. I just had like an audio thing that happened, and there's people outside playing music. I kind of like this song, if you can hear it. Actually, I really like the song. But there's things, life's happening, and I've seen many people just try to find a moment where something's perfect in order to do something, and they just not wasted. I mean, they wasted my time, but they waited and waited, and we can actually make sure you're intentional about what you're doing, but nothing's ever going to be perfect. And I forget who said it, but they were like, songwriting is, you don't finish a song, you abandon it, in terms of like that sense of creativity. Like, you can always keep working on things. You can always keep mixing things. If it's a creative pursuit, you can always keep refining things. But the imperfection is usually what we fall in love with. It's the humanity part. That's why AI can't replace us in that sense, because it doesn't have the humanity part of it, which is the imperfection. Our strength is in our imperfection. And when we want to put something out into the world, and this is very much in the creative sense, right? Like, if you're a surgeon, you probably shouldn't be as close to perfect as possible. But, for the creative types in that sense, and just the passion projects, and, whether you're raising your kids or creating a new business, just knowing that you're putting your intention into it and your care and your mindfulness into it, and not needing it to be absolutely perfect for it to be worth whatever it's going to be worth for you emotionally out there in the world, all of those things. We don't know what happens sometimes when we just release our energy and our creativity into the world when it's not quote unquote perfect. Like I said, our humanity is in that imperfection, and that is what really speaks to each other in that sense. Some of the most incredible songs have not the best mix, or like a take that was kind of weird, or the singing was like off a little bit, paintings and art and everything. So it's like making sure that you're happy with what you did, you're happy with your intention of what you put in, but not needing it to be perfect is something that I did not know and think about as much when I was younger, but something that I definitely learned and try to embody as much as possible now in my life. So those are just some things. I hope this was helpful, resonated, spoke to you in some kind of way. I like to do reflections all the time. That's why I do this podcast, but I do like to do specific reflections around my birthday in particular. It's like the next chapter. I've been joking that it's like seasons of a show, so it'd be like season 4, episode 3, although a year is a long episode, but something like that, something along those lines. I find that age is really relative in so many ways. I meet people of all different ages all the time, and everybody seems a little bit different in terms of like how long they've been here on Earth, right? The way that they look at things and their wisdoms. I think youth really comes down to if you can go through all those cycles and still look at the world with glittering eyes and still believe in possibility. Because once you've gone through a bunch of cycles, it is easy to go like, well, I've seen that. I know how this is going to turn out. So to believe in things that you don't know yet, to let the world, let the universe, let your life experience surprise and delight you in ways that you haven't experienced yet. I think that is really what keeps people young and keeps people alive, like the people that I know who are in their 70s and 80s who have that energy and could run circles around some of the 20-year-olds that I know. They look at the world with like beautiful, wondrous, curious, glittering eyes, and I aim to be one of those people and to pass that along. So wherever you are, I hope that this was interesting, hit somewhere for you, inspired you in some kind of way. If you want to share it with somebody who you think might enjoy it, that would mean the world. This is my love note. This is my love note to anybody who crosses my path. I feel there's not much that I feel like I have any power to do in a lot of the things that are happening in the world, but this is one thing that I can contribute. So I hope that it's landed in some way, and I hope this finds you wonderful, and I will see you on the next episode.